Hello, guys. My name is Emmanuel, and today we're gonna talk about another science fiction film. This time, it's not gonna be about Star Wars. Not gonna be about Godzilla. It's not gonna be about dinosaurs, etc. This time, it's gonna be something a little bit different. But it has something to do with space, with planets. But it's not gonna be like blasters. It's not gonna be like lightsaber duels, etc. Or Death Stars. Or I mean, yes, it does have something to do with spaceships as well. But it's not gonna be like just destroy or whatever. It's only just a normal thing in space, like just exploring, put satellites, and just like exploring it and just find some discovering things or whatever. And this movie caught my eye, and it's a Stanley Kubrick film, which means this movie's directed by the same director who made The Shining. Yeah, let's talk about this one of the Stanley Kubrick's classics, 2001: A Space Odyssey, released in 1968, even before the U.S. sent the first man on the moon. I mean, this movie was released the year before the U.S. sent the first man on the moon in 1969. And also, I recently watched this movie on the rocket, and I truly enjoyed it. It's actually one of my favorite science fiction films of all time. Well, yes, there's movies like Star Wars or Godzilla vs. Monster Zero. But yes, I do love both those films, including the Star Wars franchise. Including, like, all the way to episode 6. The episode 1 to episode 6. But this time, I think this movie is definitely one of my favorites because due to, like, considering I've been studying about physics and biology. Well, and I didn't study too much on biology and physics because, but I tried my best to like learn about them so I can learn about this movie because, I mean, in my class I did learn about space and stuff like the core, the gravity, the way you have to get pulled on the earth because the earth's like a magnet. All right, let's not talk about the education or whatever. Let's go continue with the movie. So, all right, the plot's gonna be ready. So let's not waste any more time and dive right into it. So the movie begins right before the whole events of the movie will even more and more in the past. Right before we didn't become homosapiens. So we have a group of like these apes or tribe type of hominines who just basically like doing their own thing, just beating the shit out of animals, just acting like monkeys, etc. There's also some kind, and then afterwards they discovered something that truly, basically, that's the whole plot of the movie. It also has something to do with later afterwards. And it's the alien monolith. It is some kind of like a ginormous rectangle looking thing. It just appears out of like the ground, appear from like out of that appear out of nowhere, and then the apes started to like just chant, just like they get the surround, and it's like doing some kind of ritual or something. I don't know. I don't know how can I describe the scene with the apes are just trying to surround the alien monolith or something. And afterwards, when the whole alien monolith is just just ignored. And also, I forgot to mention, the score for this movie is totally beautiful. It goes like this. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Da 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 dun 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 da 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 da. That right there, my folks, is the most beautiful looking soundtrack I ever heard in my life. Like literally, before I watched the movie on Rocket today. It was seriously one of my all-time my favorite soundtracks in a science fiction movie. Like no kidding, really really beautiful. Oh, All right. Speaking of soundtracks, there's actually a part of the soundtrack that's kind of creepy looking. That kind of looks like I'm watching the space version of The Shining because it just have these weird looking chants that looks so creepy. "Ooh." Yeah, that. It's really kind of creepy looking. It feels like I'm watching a horror version of Space Adventures, or well, I'm not saying that movie, but like going to space and you hear this soundtrack, man, that is give me chills. And speaking of soundtrack, there's actually not too much soundtrack in the movie, just pure silence in the movie. Like, well, yes, it does have some soundtracks at the beginning of the part of the film, but most of it. But during the expedition of the Discovery One, just so far silence. With the exception of the end with the kid with Dave, soon started to like just going full of psychedelic, go to some kind of portal or something, just going full of psychedelic and just appear in the room. In the end, yeah, it's so there's a song again I just mentioned earlier, and it's truly fucking beautiful. All right, I gotta get spoilers out of the way. I will just explain the whole movie through and through. After these homonines just started being the shit at each other because one of them just like used a bone as a weapon. Yes, their first weapon is a fucking bone. You just beat the shit out of any bones and animals and you beat the shit out of each other like, I got my first weapon, assholes. All right, let's get this whole shit out of the way. So, and then one of the hominins began to throw the bone into the air. Well, it's because I didn't learn too much about these evolution of these apes or where we came from. I mean, I do know the homosapiens, which is us, but I didn't learn about too much about the others. So please forgive me if I get that wrong, or maybe it's because I didn't study too much on these ancestors of us, all of us. So then after when he throws the bone into space, it cuts to present day, which takes place directly in the future, but it says 2001, or maybe it takes place in 2001. Where we had all the technology, spaceships, and everything type of shit you already know. Yep. A bunch of space shit and whatever. And there's a guy named Lloyd who did some kind of like, he traveled, he traveled to the moon, and he met with these Russian scientists that did some kind of speech in there, all about we had like space expeditions, etc. And whatever. And then afterwards, we never see and also when he travels to the moon base, he also discovered group of astronauts begin to explore the moon. Yes, even a year before when the U.S. sent their first man on the moon in 1969. These guys are just travel to the moon and just find the same alien monologue from the first part of the movie, where the apes are just surrounding it. And then afterwards they begin to like. And then after when discovering the alien monolith, we cut to 18 months later. With a spaceship called the Discovery One. Yes, the second part of the film, the middle part of the film, is the expedition to Jupiter by the Discovery One. And hold on, folks, because this is probably gonna be like a horror part of the movie, because this is gonna be intense. And then afterwards we meet the crew that was called a crew led by Dave and Frank. The other rest of the crew are just in some kind of coma or for some reason, or they're not waking up or just sitting, just sleeping. And it's actually, and also I forgot to mention, this movie is like released years before Wall-E, because the reason why? It's because, well, it's the main villain, the antagonist of the film. So I'll explain it later. I'll explain later why. So there's actually there is actually there's actually an AI type of like a character, like an AI that was like completely terrifying. Well, I'll explain it later. And so when we meet Dave and Frank, We seen the unnamed passengers on like sleeping, or maybe just in a coma for some reason. And there's actually another character that was actually some kind of AI and not like a human being, but those has emotions because due to that, I really recently watched the film by myself, no family around, just watching it by myself. And this thing just have feelings because it's just and I'm dying, I don't feel so good. It just started singing a song. Man, I wish I could consider it. I could consider it as. I wish I could consider it as something like a sympathetic, but I will explain later. And the AI is none other than HAL 9000. Yes. Do you guys know the main reason why this movie was released years before Wall-E? More like multiple years before Wall-E was made? It's because of the main villain. Only because his eye resembles more like Otto from Wall-E. Because his eye looks like, yeah, it's like some kind of like. But Otto is like a wheel, but Hal is just like a rectangle looking AI. It just basically just doesn't move. Well, it only exceptionally speaks and just control. Okay. And also, this thing also takes control of any part of the ship. The escape pods, the doors, everything, including like removes or checks all your monitors and everything. He also. Okay, let's get back to the movie because I already spoke too much about how that he really takes control of the whole spaceship and whatever about the event about the Discovery one. So we meet the new crew led by Dave and Frank. These two are the main protagonists for the second part of the film, which I will explain it later. And then when they're doing while they continue their travels, they realize that some part of the antenna begins to fail. But then when Hal just sent one of the crew, and it was Dave who trying to fix it. I recently read this on Wikipedia saying that it wasn't. It says it has no problem with the radar. I'm sorry, forgive me, I get said that wrong. But and they said that the radar was okay. And also afterwards when they return back to the Discovery One. I think I don't know. It's actually sure it's called. Please forgive me. I got to say that wrong. And then when the guy in the monitor, it literally alerts the crew that something is wrong with Otto. Something was wrong with Hal, because thinking that Hal is malfunctioned or something that needs to be repaired. Need him to be prepared. Repair it or just shut him down or something. Until afternoon, Dave and Frank began a discussion in the escape pod, so like how, and he's all turned out some kind of microphones or sounds so that Hal won't hear them. And then they begin to discuss about deactivating Hal because they get a feeling that Hal might be malfunctioning and they want to shut him down because for good reasons, thinking that it was some kind of malfunction on Hal. They think that Hal is not going to hear them because they just turn out the microphones or something that will like hear him. But they do realize they made a huge mistake by literally just saying that they're going to deactivate Hal. Because Hal can just, not only because he can hear them, but he can see their lips moving and just basically knowing what the hell he's even like trying to plan on him. And then afterwards, everything seems to be going normal when Frank begins going out in the escape pod or some kind of pod or whatever. And afterwards, is it the only thing? And also, like I said again, the only thing that was disturbing about the second part, the second part of the movie, or doing after the whole Dr. L'Oreal bullshit or whatever, is due to that there's no soundtrack like whatsoever. No sound, no music, it's just silence. Only with monitors, only with sound, no, only with, okay, forgive me that I said there's no music, so sorry. I only said no. I only accidentally. I shouldn't say there's no sound because there's some parts of the movie that use sound with the whole monitors, with the whole microphones when someone's speaking. Open the pop doors, please, Hal, or etc. But there's actually no music. There's actually no soundtrack through the second part of the film, and it's just basically kind of creepy. Feel like I'm watching a horror movie with no soundtrack. Just feel the creep. And also, there's actually a kill that and also okay, let's get back to the plot because I'm gonna start getting overwhelmed here. But and when Frank is for some reason out of the pod, Hal begins to turn the pod and be actually just rams him to kill him, or maybe is this kill kind of confused me. I mean, this death kind of confused me, thinking that Frank died because Hal just pushed him. But when I saw the movie for the first time, like today, I thought that Hal just pushed the escape pod, or moved the escape pod to push Frank over to his demise. And these jump cuts when we can see Hal's eye just like feeling like he just like committed his first genocide on the person. And the main creepy fun thing is, just like before, like I said again, there is no sound. No soundtrack. No nothing. It's just silence. That is really fucking creepy, to be honest. With no soundtrack whatsoever. Just silence. Feeling like you're middle of nowhere and so many crewmates have died. That's actually one of the creepiest things about the movie. Like, feels like I'm watching the horror version of The Shining, but without soundtrack. Only few parts of it are creepy with soundtrack. Like, I kind of feel like I'm watching the Shining version of space. I mean, feels like I'm watching a space adventure with Shining version of space. And also afterwards, there's actually a moment, and also as for when David's trying to figure it out, that trying to find his fallen friend that just dies because maybe suffocation, maybe just get pushed by Hal. Yeah, this kill kind of confused me, thinking that Frank just died of suffocation, or maybe it's because he just got pushed by Hal. So you know what? Let's get a move on real quick. And afterwards, when David's trying to follow the dead body of Frank, how did a genocidal way, and considering I just mentioned before that he could control almost the entire ship, he literally just killed the rest of the crew that are in hibernation, or should I say they're in a coma. He literally just suffocated them to death by killing them, by literally just like taking out all their heart monitors or something. And David's the only remaining crew left. It's only just him and Dave. Only Hal and Dave are the only ones left. And then Dave is just trying to return to him and saying, "Open the pop doors, please, Hal. Open the pop doors, Hal." But Hal just doesn't respond. And he responded. And there's actually one of this line, and there's actually a line that everyone truly remembers from this film, is when Hal said, "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." That right there, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite lines from the entire movie. And probably some people say it will be the best. It was the greatest lines from an AI I ever seen in our life. We have ever seen in our life. Hal and Dave begin to argue all about to get back inside. Hal just doesn't give a shit because he told them that all about the whole plan about disconnecting him. In the fact they're trying to plan to like just disconnect him. And they said that he can't hear them. No, I mean he can't hear them, but he can see their lips moving. Like he just knowing what the hell they're saying for some reason. And then afterwards, Dave is just stranded in space with a pod, and then he has no choice to go to the emergency airlock. And also, there's a part from that is true fucking loud. I regretted for like turning the volume on, and man, that scene when Dave began to go into the escape airlock. It's so fucking loud, with no soundtrack, no music. It's just full on so loud, and the machine and everything. It's just completely so loud. I have to turn down the volume just yeah, it's because it's so goddamn loud. And afterwards, Dave really pissed off that he's realized that his friend or dead, thinks to Hal. Then actually Tal's trying to comfort him, like trying to calm down, buddy. I can help you. But Dave just doesn't give a shit because he's more robotic than Hal. The only reason why he's more robotic, Dave, is because he doesn't have emotion. He doesn't even care like his friend is dead. Or, well, I mean, he does care about when he's trying to take him back to the space pod. It's because everyone in this movie seems more like stiff or no remorse or anything. And just stale and just doesn't have any reaction. Only exception when Dave is trying to realize that his friend is ejected, but he doesn't even cry or anything like that. He just stiff, just act natural. Well, Howard just, when trying to comfort him, he just basically, I'm dying, please stop, I'm dying. No, I mean, seriously, I'm dying, Hal. I'm dying, Dave. Please stop. Stop. And also, I remember on the internet, Howard was actually singing a song called Daisy. And the way he's singing is feeling kind of cute. More like creepy away because they start going like, I'm here, I'm in the bicycle. And then after, when Dave finally shut him down, Dave continued with the expedition as the only one left. And then when he arrived to Jupiter, with the same soundtrack, kind of looks like feeling it feels like the chant from The Shining. Because yeah, this movie's like directed by the same director who made The Shining, but this movie's like released years before The Shining. But man, the soundtrack with that chant is really kind of creepy. Like, no kidding, it's so fucking creepy. And afterwards, there's actually a moment that's really fucking weird. It's when Dave, I guess maybe using it. Oh yes, because he uses a pod. He uses a pod, and then when he really just trying to get closer to Jupiter, I think. He goes full on psychedelic. Sorry. He enters the portal, and then for some reason, everything feels like psychedelic. He's like he's high on drugs or something. It feels like Dave is actually on drugs while just flying, or just going from the portal or something, because I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Because during the final part of the film, when it feels like I'm watching Doctor Who, feels like we're watching if Doctor Who goes to space. And afterwards, after all the psychedelic, or what the fuck is even going on, it feels like Dave is taking some drug pills or something. He's just high on drugs while he's he's traveling to the spot. And then afterwards, for some reason, he's in a room. Like some kind of like a mansion type room or something. And then it just like goes full like evolutionize his life in that room. It goes from being a young to an older version of himself. Because we can clearly see the evolution of him go through time, living in that room, and finally die. Yes, Dave died in that for millions of years. Because Dave just died like throughout the entire life in that room. And then after when he died, he saw the monolith again. The same monolith, the monolith that appeared during the first part of the movie with the homininids, and then the other one in the moon. And now in Dave's room for some reason. And afterwards, Dave just passed away and just dies and transforms into a baby. And again, the soundtrack again makes it feel more epic. Is when the baby version of Dave, inside of a bubble, returns back to Earth, and the end. No kidding. The movie just ends right there when Dave is a young boy, a young baby, just returns back to Earth. That's a perfect, and ladies and gentlemen, that is a perfect way to end a science fiction film. No kidding, because the awesome soundtrack, everything is fucking perfect. Imagine if Star Wars uses that soundtrack and uses it in New Hope. Just feel like more epic. And ladies and gentlemen, Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey will remain a cult classic alongside The Shining, in my opinion. I know some people who are fan of this movie. If you guys are fan of this movie, you're not alone, because I watched this movie and I loved it. The soundtrack, the silent feel, the movie, the horror part at the end, the only exception the psychedelic parts for some reason. This movie is truly fucking perfect being a sci-fi classic, alongside the Invasion of Astro Monster and Star Wars: A New Hope. And Stanley Kubrick, you did a great job for this movie. God bless you for creating the greatest science fiction film of all time. And also, I forgot to mention, there's actually a sequel to this one. And I forgot to mention, there's actually a novelization of the film, which released the same year as this film, because maybe it's because Stanley Kubrick made it like a co-production with some kind of with an author, and both of them, while the author is working on his novel version of the film, Stanley Kubrick directed the film, and the rest is history. And there's actually a sequel, which I did not realize that it existed. Yeah, I did not realize that the sequel literally existed, because I only remember the first film. In fact, it's not even on the rocket. That's actually disappointing for some reason. Maybe I should check and see if it does have 2010, a sequel, or whatever. Anyway, guys, this is my review of my favorite science fiction films, alongside Star Wars: A New Hope and Invasion of Astro Monster. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Give it a like, subscribe, and see you guys next time. See ya!